The truth about peacocks as omens depends entirely on cultural context. In the West, particularly in theatre and some folklore, they symbolize bad luck, death, and the evil eye, often due to the eyes on their feathers. Conversely, in the East, especially in India, China, and Japan, peacocks and their feathers are powerful symbols of good luck, protection, prosperity, and new beginnings. The perception of a peacock as good or bad ultimately depends on the specific cultural lens and historical associations, not a universal truth. In his 1836 book on the mental illumination and moral improvement of mankind, Reverend Thomas Dick calls the peacock the most beautiful bird in the world. There are few that would dispute this description. However, throughout history, there has always been more to the peacock than its dazzling plumage. At various times and in various cultures, it has served as a symbol of good and evil, death and resurrection, and of sinful pride and overweening vanity. And much like its avian brethren, the crow and the raven, the peacock has figured heavily in folktales and fables, as well as in countless superstitions that still exist today. First originating in India, peacocks can trace their history back to biblical times. They are mentioned in the Bible as being part of the treasure taken to the court of King Solomon. They are also associated with Alexander the Great. In his 1812 book The History of Animals, author Noah Webster writes, "Some folktales assert that peacocks were actually in the Garden of Eden and not in a good way." In the 1838 Young Naturalist's Book of Birds, author Percy St. John relates the Arab belief that peacocks were a bird of ill omen. There are two reasons for this, the first of which, as he explains, was that the peacock had been the cause of the entrance of the devil into paradise, leading to the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the garden. The second reason was that it was believed that the devil watered the vine with the blood of the peacock as well as with that of the ape, the lion, and the hog. Which is why, as St. John writes, "A wine-bibber is at first elated and struts like a peacock, then begins to dance, play, and make grimaces like an ape, he then rages like a lion, and, lastly, lays down on any dunghill like a hog." A wine-bibber is at first elated and struts like a peacock, then begins to dance, play, and make grimaces like an ape, he then rages like a lion, and, lastly, lays down on any dunghill like a hog. Peacocks were an important symbol in Roman times, most commonly representing funerals, death, and resurrection. In the Encyclopedia of Superstition, author Richard Webster explains, "This came about when people noticed that peacocks' feathers did not fade or lose their shiny luster. This was seen as a sign of immortality or resurrection." Because of this belief, Webster states that early Christians decorated the walls of the catacombs with pictures of peacocks and peacock feathers to illustrate their faith in resurrection. This link with resurrection was carried over into artwork of the period, which often depicted peacocks in relation to the Eucharist and the Annunciation. According to author Christine Jackson in her 2006 book Peacock. In typical scenes of art of the period, the peacock was closely linked to the Eucharist by two birds flanking the cup holding the wine. Paintings of the Annunciation included a peacock to signify Christ's eventual rising from the dead. In scenes of the Nativity of Christ, peacocks were painted near the figure of the child to symbolize the resurrection. This was all very different from early folktales which portrayed peacocks as being responsible for the fall of man. In fact, rather than depicting them as the devil's assistants, Jackson reports that in art of this period, owing to their ability to destroy serpents, peacocks were also depicted flanking the tree of knowledge. In Greek mythology, the peacock was believed to have sprung from the blood of Argos Panoptes, the hundred-eyed giant. Later accounts state that it was Hera who, upon the death of Argos, placed his eyes in the peacock's tail herself, or alternately, turned Argos into a peacock. Because of this connection, the Routledge Handbook of Greek Mythology explains that the peacock was the special bird of Hera. In addition to being seen as symbols of immortality and resurrection, peacocks figured into more mundane superstitions as well. Jackson reports that, according to the 15th century Swiss physician Paracelsus, if a peacock cries more than usual, or out of his time, it foretells the death of some in that family to whom it doth belong. But peacocks did more than foretell death. Their cry was believed to predict the coming of wet weather, while their presence, or that of their feathers, inside a house might well lead the unmarried ladies in residence to end up old maids. Peacock feathers were also believed to bring bad luck in a theatre, either by initiating disaster among the props and the actors, or by causing the play to fail. Perhaps what peacocks are best known for, in terms of historical association, is their long connection with the sins of pride and vanity. This arises not only from their great beauty, but also from their tendency to strut when displaying their magnificent plumage. In Renaissance art, for example, the peacock can often be found representing the sin of pride in depictions of the 7 deadly sins. The Victorians continued this association, with many 19th-century publications reiterating that the peacock had nothing at all to recommend it but its spectacular beauty. In The History of Animals, Noah Webster calls the peacock's voice loud and unharmonious, quoting the Italian saying that the peacock has the voice of a devil, but the plumage of an angel. Reverend Dick echoes this sentiment in his book, describing the peacock's cry as harsh and disgusting. But it was not only the peacock's voice that was objectionable. The peacock's unpleasant personality was also the subject of criticism. Reverend Dick writes, "It is so wicked that it will scarcely live with any other bird, except the pigeon, and it tears and spoils everything it gets a hold of with its bill." This variety of skin-deep beauty coupled with excess pride made the peacock a perfect 19th-century moral teaching tool, especially for young people. As Reverend Dick tells his readers, "Little boys and girls, be not like the peacock, proud and vain, on account of your beauty and your fine clothes. Humility and goodness are always to be preferred to beauty." By the 19th century, peacocks served mainly as fashionable lawn ornaments at fine country houses. St. John refers to them as the royal section of the feathered race. While the 1844 Book of Zoological Sketches calls the peacock more ornamental than useful, stating, "His form is so elegant, and his plumage so fine, that he is generally kept with great care in the grounds of his owners in the country, for the sake of his beauty, and there he may often be seen, walking with firm and slow steps along the gravel walks, or perched upon some parapet, or on the branch of a lofty tree, while he holds up his head and spreads his richly colored train, as if waiting to be admired." Though peacocks could frequently be seen in the country, in 19th-century London they were still relatively uncommon. So uncommon, in fact, that according to St. John, the peacock was allowed a place in London's zoological gardens. It was kept amongst the foreign birds, where, but for the wires and cages, one might almost imagine it still in a forest glade, on the romantic banks of the Jumna. Parrots hold positive symbolic meanings across various cultures, often representing eternal knowledge, harmony, and communication with the divine. While ancient practices like ornithomancy involved reading omens from bird behavior in general, the concept of a specific parrot omen isn't as widespread as broader bird symbolism, which can vary from good to bad luck. Some traditions see parrots as messengers of joy and renewal, while historical instances, like one involving Roman Emperor Augustus, link them to auspicious messages and even the Virgin Mary. Positive symbolism. Knowledge and communication. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, parrots symbolize eternal knowledge and the ability to communicate between humans and deities. Joy and renewal. Many cultures view parrots as symbols of happiness, renewal, and the capacity to express truth clearly. Auspicious messengers. A parrot's colorful plumage and mimicry make it a fitting symbol for messengers of good news or positive change. Historical and religious contexts. Ancient beliefs. Birds, including parrots, were seen as messengers of the gods or representations of the gods themselves, leading to their involvement in superstitions and omens. Ornithomancy. This ancient practice involved interpreting omens from the actions of birds and was common in many cultures, though not specific to parrots. Christianity. A parrot's greeting to the Roman Emperor Octavian was later interpreted as a prefiguring of the angelic greeting Ave Maria, associating the bird with the Virgin Mary. The meaning of animal omens is subjective. It can also be interpreted as a message of hope, guidance, or even a sign of protection. Depending on your spiritual beliefs, it might be seen as a message from a loved one or a divine messenger. Whether you've seen a dove near your home, in a dream, or flying overhead, you might wonder what these beautiful birds represent on a deeper level. Their spiritual significance transcends cultures and religions, carrying messages of peace, love, and transformation. This guide explores the spiritual meaning of doves, their symbolism in various contexts, and how their appearance might be meaningful to you. The symbolism of a dove. Doves are widely recognized as symbols of peace, love, and hope. In many traditions, they represent purity and spiritual guidance. Their gentle nature and soothing presence often make them a sign of comfort and reassurance. In spiritual terms, the dove is seen as a messenger between realms. It's often believed that a dove's appearance brings messages from loved ones who have passed on, offering a sense of connection to the divine. The dove also symbolizes renewal and new beginnings, often appearing during times of transition to provide encouragement and clarity. Doves in different cultures. Doves hold a special place in the spiritual and cultural traditions of many societies. Understanding these perspectives can enrich your appreciation of their symbolism and deepen your spiritual connection. Doves in Christianity. In Christianity, the dove is a symbol of the Holy Spirit and features prominently in biblical narratives. One of the most well-known examples is the story of Noah's Ark, where a dove carrying an olive branch signified peace and a renewed covenant between God and humanity. The dove also represents purity, divine guidance, and the presence of the sacred. In spiritual terms, the dove is seen as a messenger between realms. It's often believed that a dove's appearance brings messages from loved ones who have passed on, offering a sense of connection to the divine. The dove also symbolizes renewal and new beginnings, often appearing during times of transition to provide encouragement and clarity. Doves in Native American culture. For Native American tribes, doves symbolize harmony, balance, and connection to the natural world. They are seen as messengers of peace and reminders of the interconnectedness of all living things. In some traditions, the dove represents hope and renewal, particularly during times of difficulty. Doves in different cultures. Doves hold a special place in the spiritual and cultural traditions of many societies. Understanding these perspectives can enrich your appreciation of their symbolism and deepen your spiritual connection. Doves in Christianity. In Christianity, the dove is a symbol of the Holy Spirit and features prominently in biblical narratives. One of the most well-known examples is the story of Noah's Ark, where a dove carrying an olive branch signified peace and a renewed covenant between God and humanity. The dove also represents purity, divine guidance, and the presence of the sacred. Doves in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, doves were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. They symbolized romance, fertility, and the nurturing aspects of life. Doves were often depicted in stories and artwork associated with the goddess, embodying her divine qualities and influence over matters of the heart. Doves in Hinduism. In Hindu culture, the dove is associated with the soul and its journey toward enlightenment. It represents the transcendent nature of the spirit, emphasizing themes of freedom, peace, and spiritual evolution. The dove's ability to move gracefully between the earthly and spiritual realms highlights its sacred status in Hinduism. Is it good or bad luck to see a dove? Seeing a dove is generally considered a positive omen. A white dove, in particular, is often interpreted as a sign of peace, purity, and blessings. It may signal that you are on the right path or that a period of calm is approaching after turmoil. In spiritual terms, the dove is seen as a messenger between realms. It's often believed that a dove's appearance brings messages from loved ones who have passed on, offering a sense of connection to the divine. The dove also symbolizes renewal and new beginnings, often appearing during times of transition to provide encouragement and clarity. Doves in different cultures. Doves hold a special place in the spiritual and cultural traditions of many societies. Understanding these perspectives can enrich your appreciation of their symbolism and deepen your spiritual connection. Doves in Christianity. In Christianity, the dove is a symbol of the Holy Spirit and features prominently in biblical narratives. One of the most well-known examples is the story of Noah's Ark, where a dove carrying an olive branch signified peace and a renewed covenant between God and humanity. The dove also represents purity, divine guidance, and the presence of the sacred. Doves in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, doves were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. They symbolized romance, fertility, and the nurturing aspects of life. Doves were often depicted in stories and artwork associated with the goddess, embodying her divine qualities and influence over matters of the heart. Doves in Native American culture. For Native American tribes, doves symbolize harmony, balance, and connection to the natural world. They are seen as messengers of peace and reminders of the interconnectedness of all living things. In some traditions, the dove represents hope and renewal, particularly during times of difficulty. Doves in Hinduism. In Hindu culture, the dove is associated with the soul and its journey toward enlightenment. It represents the transcendent nature of the spirit, emphasizing themes of freedom, peace, and spiritual evolution. The dove's ability to move gracefully between the earthly and spiritual realms highlights its sacred status in Hinduism. Is it good or bad luck to see a dove? Seeing a dove is generally considered a positive omen. A white dove, in particular, is often interpreted as a sign of peace, purity, and blessings. It may signal that you are on the right path or that a period of calm is approaching after turmoil. Some traditions suggest that a dove's visit brings good fortune or spiritual awakening. In times of grief, the presence of a dove can feel like a message from a departed loved one, providing solace and a sense of continuity. While interpretations may vary, most people view a dove's appearance as a comforting and uplifting sign. What does it mean when doves appear near your home? In spiritual terms, the dove is seen as a messenger between realms. It's often believed that a dove's appearance brings messages from loved ones who have passed on, offering a sense of connection to the divine. The dove also symbolizes renewal and new beginnings, often appearing during times of transition to provide encouragement and clarity. Doves in different cultures. Doves hold a special place in the spiritual and cultural traditions of many societies. Understanding these perspectives can enrich your appreciation of their symbolism and deepen your spiritual connection. Doves in Christianity. In Christianity, the dove is a symbol of the Holy Spirit and features prominently in biblical narratives. One of the most well-known examples is the story of Noah's Ark, where a dove carrying an olive branch signified peace and a renewed covenant between God and humanity. The dove also represents purity, divine guidance, and the presence of the sacred. Doves in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, doves were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. They symbolized romance, fertility, and the nurturing aspects of life. Doves were often depicted in stories and artwork associated with the goddess, embodying her divine qualities and influence over matters of the heart. Doves in Native American culture. For Native American tribes, doves symbolize harmony, balance, and connection to the natural world. They are seen as messengers of peace and reminders of the interconnectedness of all living things. In some traditions, the dove represents hope and renewal, particularly during times of difficulty. Doves in Hinduism. In Hindu culture, the dove is associated with the soul and its journey toward enlightenment. It represents the transcendent nature of the spirit, emphasizing themes of freedom, peace, and spiritual evolution. The dove's ability to move gracefully between the earthly and spiritual realms highlights its sacred status in Hinduism. Is it good or bad luck to see a dove? Seeing a dove is generally considered a positive omen. A white dove, in particular, is often interpreted as a sign of peace, purity, and blessings. It may signal that you are on the right path or that a period of calm is approaching after turmoil. Some traditions suggest that a dove's visit brings good fortune or spiritual awakening. In times of grief, the presence of a dove can feel like a message from a departed loved one, providing solace and a sense of continuity. While interpretations may vary, most people view a dove's appearance as a comforting and uplifting sign. What does it mean when doves appear near your home? When doves frequent your home or garden, it could hold spiritual significance. Many believe this represents protection, harmony, and blessings for the household. A dove's presence might suggest that your home is a place of peace and safety. If you see two doves near your home, it is often seen as a sign of love and partnership, symbolizing a harmonious relationship. On the other hand, a single dove might remind you of the importance of self-love and inner peace. Pay attention to the emotions you feel when you see a dove, as these can help you understand its message. Dove numbers and their spiritual meanings. In spiritual symbolism, the number of doves you see can hold unique significance, adding deeper meaning to their appearance. One dove. A single dove often symbolizes independence, self-discovery, and inner strength. Its presence may encourage you to trust your instincts, embrace personal growth, and navigate your path with confidence. Two doves. Two doves are strongly associated with love, unity, and partnership. Their appearance highlights the importance of harmony and mutual support in your relationships, offering reassurance during emotional or romantic challenges. A flock of doves. A group of doves symbolizes community, shared purpose, and collective blessings. It may serve as a reminder to nurture meaningful connections and embrace the power of collaboration in your personal or spiritual life. Please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thank you. Dove colors and their spiritual meanings. Pigeons hold varied omen meanings, with positive associations including luck, prosperity, peace, and love due to their historical association with humans, loyalty, and the symbol of Noah's Ark, while negative interpretations often link them to misfortune or the soul of a loved one, especially in the case of a dead pigeon. In some traditions, a pigeon in the window is a sign of transformation, fertility, or the arrival of good news, though it could also simply indicate a wild bird resting or seeking food. Positive omens. Good fortune and prosperity. Seeing a pigeon can signal upcoming positive changes, financial gains, and overall well-being. Love and loyalty. Pigeons are often seen as symbols of love and devotion, as they are known for being monogamous and mating for life. Peace and harmony. Pigeons are widely recognized as symbols of peace, famously appearing in the story of Noah's Ark. Connection with nature. Their presence can be a reminder to connect with the natural world and appreciate your surroundings. Transformation. Pigeons can also represent transformation and rebirth. Negative or ambiguous omens. Bad luck. In some beliefs, a dead pigeon is considered a bad omen, possibly indicating a curse or block to bad energy. Spiritual messengers. Some believe that pigeons, or other birds, are the reincarnated souls of loved ones. Signs of ill health. An immobile pigeon with puffed-up feathers may be ill, rather than a sign of an omen. Practical explanations. Lost domestic pigeon. A banded pigeon might be a lost pet. Seeking food or shelter. Pigeons may simply be seeking food or a safe resting spot. Habitual behavior. Pigeons are intelligent birds and may simply be accustomed to human presence and food sources. How to interpret. The meaning of seeing a pigeon depends on the context and your personal beliefs. Consider these factors. The pigeon's behavior. Is it sick, injured, or acting normally? Your recent experiences. Are you expecting a change or facing hardship? Cultural. Pigeon symbolism. Unraveling the meanings and myths. Pigeon symbolism. Unraveling the meanings and myths. Last updated, November 16, 2023. Share. Key takeaways. Historical companions. Pigeons, especially the rock dove, have shared a deep-rooted bond with humans for up to 10,000 years, ranging from food sources to war messengers. Symbols of peace and love. Iconic as symbols of peace in stories like Noah's Ark, pigeons also embody love and fidelity due to their monogamous nature. Cultural significance. Across cultures from ancient Greece to Native American tribes, pigeons hold diverse meanings, from representing goddesses to symbols of protection. Modern mixed reception. Despite their significant past, today's pigeons grapple with mixed perceptions, balancing admiration from enthusiasts against urban nuisances. Whether we're cursing their droppings or admiring their affectionate and peaceful ways, pigeons are a part of everyday life for people all over the world. However, the pigeon is much more than a mere bird for many people. These abundant avians have a long history of symbolism, and that's just what this article will uncover. Read along with us to learn all about the meaning of pigeons. Historical role of pigeons. There are over 350 dove and pigeon species in the world, but one, the rock dove, Columba livia, has been a part of our lives for between 5,000 and 10,000 years. With such a long history, it comes as no surprise that we have such a deep-rooted symbolic relationship with these birds. First domesticated for food, we later learned about the pigeon's remarkable homing ability, which was useful both for sport and communication. Selective breeding shaped these birds into avian athletes and a multitude of shapes, sizes, and colors that have captured our hearts. Their role as loyal messengers has had a profound impact on their reputation, turning a visually unremarkable bird into a celebrated war hero. Used to transport messages since at least the 12th century in Central Asia and the Middle East, these birds were employed well into the last century for service in the First and Second World Wars. Pigeons as symbols of peace. Perhaps the most enduring pigeon symbolism is that of peace. Typically pictured as a pure white bird, many know the story of Noah's dove, who flew from the ark and returned with an olive branch in its bill, signaling it had found land and that all the ark's inhabitants' time of hardship could end. In Islam, the pigeon is considered a pure animal. It is said that the pigeon saved the Prophet Muhammad and his companion from capture by sending a pair of pigeons to nest outside the cave where they were hiding, thus fooling their pursuers into believing the cave was deserted. Pigeons are still used ceremoniously as a sign of peace and are often released at events like weddings. These birds were traditionally released by soldiers at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, a practice dating back to 1920. However, this ritual ended after an unfortunate incident in 1988 when some were burned during the cauldron lighting ceremony in Seoul, South Korea. Pigeons in love and fidelity. Pigeons are strongly associated with fidelity and love due to their strictly monogamous breeding habits. They are devoted parents, both contributing to care for their baby pigeons. However, they display incredible affection even away from the nest. Pigeons are strongly associated with fidelity and love due to their strictly monogamous breeding habits. Pigeons in mythology and folklore. Doves have long been seen as symbols of peace, love, and compassion in various cultures across the globe. In one of Aesop's fables called The Dove and the Ant, a compassionate dove sees an ant drowning in a stream. The dove drops a blade of grass into the water so the ant can climb to safety. Later, when the dove is about to be killed by a hunter, the ant returns the favor by biting the man's foot. Pictured, a white dove. Doves have long been seen as symbols of peace, love, and compassion in various cultures across the globe. Pigeons in art and literature. Pigeons and doves have been featured in art and literature for millennia. As a bird of rich symbolic meaning, they are well represented in literature and poetry, including a touching poem by English Romantic poet John Keats. Native American. Pigeons were important in Native American cultures both as a food source and in religion. The Seneca believed the now extinct passenger pigeon, Ectopistes migratorius, gave of itself to create children, while the Blackfoot people held the mourning dove, Zenaida macrura, as a symbol of protection. Chinese. Pigeon symbolism has been known in China since at least the pre-Qin dynasty, pre-700 BC. At the start of the Han dynasty, these birds came to represent filial piety, which is respect and care for parents and the elderly. Pigeons in dreams, symbolic interpretations. A pigeon appearing in dreams could have many interpretations, although these birds are typically seen as a good omen. Possible interpretations include a time of renewed peace, a desire for change and freedom, a positive change in fortune and luck. You will uncover the answers you seek. Pigeons as spirit animals or totems. The pigeon might not be one of the most impressive spirit animals, although these birds certainly have noble intentions. The pigeon spirit is one of love and peace that could perfectly embody individuals with a calling and message to share. The modern symbolism of pigeons. While pigeons remain popular with breeders and racers all over the world, they have fallen out of favor with many people in the modern era. Often portrayed negatively in the media and even described as rats with wings, our long history with pigeons is being eroded. Concerns over their ability to spread diseases and the masses of droppings they leave in our cities and urban areas are some of the major reasons for our changing attitude toward these birds. No, crows do not mean death is near. Their association with death is a cultural belief rooted in their role as scavengers and black plumage, which became a negative omen over time, particularly in Western cultures. In many other cultures, such as those of Native Americans or ancient peoples, crows symbolize wisdom, intelligence, transformation, or even act as spiritual messengers between the living and the dead. Origins of the death omen belief. Scavenging behavior. Crows and ravens are scavengers, meaning they often appear at sites of death, consuming dead animals. This natural behavior led to an association with death in the minds of early observers. Black plumage. The crow's entirely black feathers also play a role, as the color black is commonly associated with funerals and death in many cultures. Folklore and superstition. The term murder of crows itself comes from old folk tales and superstitions, where the birds were believed to gather and determine fate, further cementing the negative association. Alternative interpretations of crow symbolism. Wisdom and intelligence. Crows are incredibly intelligent birds, known for their problem-solving abilities and tool use, which has led to them being symbols of wisdom and foresight. Spiritual messengers. In many Native American traditions, crows are seen as trickster figures or messengers who can move between the spiritual and physical worlds. Transformation and destiny. Crows can also represent transformation, the future, and a connection to the other world, making them symbols of transition and destiny rather than just doom. While a crow appearing in the path of a person may be seen as a bad omen in some Western traditions, this is a cultural superstition, not a factual indicator of impending death. Instead, the crow's symbolism is rich and varied, often embracing positive qualities like intelligence and spiritual significance across different societies. If you've ever seen a crow and wondered what its presence might mean, you're not alone. Crows have long fascinated people with their intelligence, mysterious behavior, and striking appearance. Across different cultures and spiritual traditions, crows are often seen as messengers, protectors, or guides, offering deeper meanings beyond their physical presence. In this post, we'll explore the spiritual symbolism of crows and what they might represent when they appear in your life. What does seeing a crow mean? The crow as a spiritual messenger. The symbolism of the crow. The crow in different cultures. Is it good or bad luck to see a crow? How to know if a crow is your spirit animal. What does it mean when a crow appears outside your home? Crow numbers and their spiritual meanings. Frequently asked questions about crow symbolism. Study spirit animals and totems for X. What does seeing a crow mean? Seeing a crow can be a powerful experience, especially if you feel a certain pull toward its presence. Crows are often seen as spiritual messengers, and when they appear in your life, it's typically a sign that you should pay attention. They may be encouraging you to look deeper into your situation or consider a new perspective. In some cases, a crow's appearance can signal a need for change, transformation, or spiritual growth. The crow as a spiritual messenger. With their keen perception and awareness of their surroundings, crows remind you to trust your intuition. If a crow appears in your life, it could be a message to be more observant and mindful of the opportunities or challenges ahead. Crows are also seen as protectors, offering guidance during times of uncertainty. X. What does seeing a crow mean? Seeing a crow can be a powerful experience, especially if you feel a certain pull toward its presence. Crows are often seen as spiritual messengers, and when they appear in your life, it's typically a sign that you should pay attention. They may be encouraging you to look deeper into your situation or consider a new perspective. In some cases, a crow's appearance can signal a need for change, transformation, or spiritual growth. The crow as a spiritual messenger. Many people believe that crows are messengers from the spiritual world. With their keen perception and awareness of their surroundings, crows remind you to trust your intuition. If a crow appears in your life, it could be a message to be more observant and mindful of the opportunities or challenges ahead. Crows are also seen as protectors, offering guidance during times of uncertainty. The symbolism of the crow. The crow's symbolism is rich and varied, representing everything from transformation to intelligence. These birds are often associated with change, particularly spiritual or personal growth. While crows have been linked to death in some traditions, it's worth remembering that death often symbolizes the end of something old, making way for new beginnings. Please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Thank you. An owl and the omen refers to the deeply rooted folklore connecting owls with omens of death, bad luck, or spiritual transformation, though this interpretation varies across cultures, with some viewing owls as symbols of wisdom and good fortune instead. The association with death stems from ancient beliefs that owls signaled bad events or were messengers from the underworld, with myths from various cultures including the Greeks, Romans, and some indigenous American tribes perpetuating this idea. Cultural interpretations of the owl omen. Bad omen death. Ancient Greece and Rome, the owl was linked to wisdom, especially for Athena, but also foretold death when its call was heard. Some indigenous cultures, owls are viewed as messengers of death, and some legends say that an owl's call can signify impending misfortune or the suffering of a loved one. European folk tales, owls were sometimes associated with witches or seen as harbingers of misfortune. Good omen wisdom change. Ancient Greece, the goddess Athena chose the owl as her symbol of wisdom and victory. Some Native American tribes, the Hopi tribe, for example, considers the owl a symbol of authority and wisdom. Modern interpretation. For some, seeing a little owl can signify a healthy, biodiverse ecosystem, making it a positive sign for the environment, according to this YouTube video. Spiritual awakening. For others, an owl sighting can symbolize wisdom, power, or spiritual awakening, notes how stuff works. Harbinger of change. In some contexts, an owl's presence near a home is seen as a sign of forthcoming change. Why the duality in interpretation? Mysterious nature. Owls are nocturnal and have unusual characteristics, such as their silent flight and large eyes, which naturally lent themselves to mystical interpretations and superstitions. Cultural narratives. Each culture developed its own narratives and beliefs about these mysterious birds, leading to differing symbolic meanings over time. Misconceptions. Many negative interpretations stem from folklore or misunderstandings rather than any inherent negative traits of the owls themselves, says the International Owl Center. Have you ever seen an owl when it's pitch black outside and watched it turn its head 270 degrees so it could get a better look at you? The owl's huge eyes make you feel like it's looking through you, as its penetrating glare leaves a chill down your spine. In many indigenous and African cultures, seeing an owl is a bad omen, a sign of something dreadful to come. Owl sightings and bad omens. Cuando el tecolote canta, el indio muere is an old saying in Mexico that means when the owl sings, the Indian dies. To the Aztecs and Mayans, the owl was a harbinger of death and a symbol of destruction. In fact, if an Aztec heard an owl above their home or in a nearby tree, they believed that someone was going to die soon. And, in many Native American cultures, adults warned their children that if they didn't stay inside at night and behave, an owl might carry them away. Perhaps it's their eerie nighttime hooting or their silent flight before they attack their prey that makes these birds the subject of many spooky stories and legends. Cultures in East Africa believed that owls brought illnesses to children, and many people in Nigeria believe that owls are possessed by witches. Related, the spiritual meaning and symbolism of eagles. Although there are no superstitions in the Baha'i faith, Abdu el-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, the prophet and founder of the Baha'i faith, acknowledged the depressing effect that owls can have on some people. In 1868, Baha'u'llah, along with his family and companions, was banished to the prison city of Akka, because he announced he was the latest messenger sent from God and shared revolutionary messages of the oneness of humanity, the oneness of religion, the equality of women and men, and the agreement of science and religion. The Ottoman Empire didn't expect anyone they sent to Akka to survive for very long. The city had no source of fresh water, filthy streets, and an air so putrid that birds flying overhead would drop dead out of the sky. Abdu-el-Baha was imprisoned for 40 years there and referred to this city as the capital of the owl's realm, where thou wilt hear no sound, save only the echo of his repeated calls. Abdu-el-Baha said, "There were a few trees inside the walls, and on their branches, as well as up on the battlements, the owls cried all night long. How disquieting is the hoot of an owl, how it saddens the heart." Abdu-el-Baha also used owls to symbolize loss, damnation, and emptiness. He wrote, "Although to outward seeming the divines and the unjust and foolish rulers are raising an uproar and flaunting themselves, ere long ye shall witness how, like the owls of the night, these people will creep into a desolate ruin, hasten to the tomb of eternal loss, and fall into the abyss of everlasting perdition. Even now, they wander distracted in the wilderness of disappointment, while the friends of God gleam brightly from the horizon of everlasting glory." Owls, symbols of wisdom. Life. The symbolic meaning of owls in prophecies and omens.